All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're not just exploring some abstract idea. We are entering a procedure. Think of it as a clinical trial, performed on the very core of our identity, to examine the unmaking and maybe, just maybe, the remaking of the self.
So, we start with this really unsettling observation. The idea that you, the person who's supposed to be the master of your own mind, might actually be a total stranger in your own psychological house. It points to this fundamental disconnect, a kind of ghost in our own machine that, let's be honest, we usually just ignore. So, let's set the scene. Imagine our operating theater is this place called the Crimson Library, a gothic psychological space. And lying on the table is the patient, the human ego, that constructed I that we work so hard to present to the world, and even to ourselves. The trial is beginning. Now, any good clinical trial has to start with a diagnosis. We have to understand the foundational problem here, what we're calling the architecture of stagnation that so often defines the modern ego. The first diagnostic tool we're going to use is a Gothic lens. And look, this isn't just about an aesthetic. It's a way of seeing. It lets us look past the grand, beautiful cathedral of our public performances and see the truth, the internal decay, the cracks running through the foundation. And to actually diagnose that decay, we need a second tool, Greek logic. This is the rational, Socratic side of things, the framework we use to bring some kind of order to the chaos. So if the Gothic lens reveals the rot, the Greek lens is what tries to map it, to understand this fever of the soul with real clinical precision. And all of this leads us to a very specific diagnosis, the Pharisees' paradox. This is the condition of keeping up this polished, perfect, virtuous performance on the outside, while on the inside, the actual psyche is just left to stagnate, to decay. It's a mask of health that's hiding a really deep sickness. But you know, a structure like that, this architecture of stagnation, it can't stand forever. Something's gotta give. And that's the catalyst for this whole procedure, the arrival of the honest guest. So, what is this honest guest? Well, it's not some kind of external demon you have to fight. It's an internal intelligence, a part of you that finally breaks through when the ego's walls just can't hold back the truth anymore. It is an unwelcome, for sure, but an absolutely necessary disruptor of our cozy little illusions. And this is where it gets really wild, the moment of confrontation. You expect to meet a monster, right? Some shadow to be fought. But the great shock, the terrifying revelation, is that the guest is a mirror. And the face looking back at you, completely stripped of all performance, it's your own. This encounter is what triggers the discovery of the uncanny double. It's that deeply unsettling, gut-wrenching realization that the I you've built your whole life around is just a costume, a role you've been playing. And underneath it all, there's this primal, nameless force that's been running the show the whole time. The master really was a stranger. Okay, so once that truth is out in the open, the real procedure can get underway. This is the active, systematic dismantling of the ego's carefully constructed reality. This is the unmaking procedure. The main surgical tool used here is what's called the weaponized uncanny. The procedure takes everything that feels familiar and comforting, your home, your relationships, your beliefs, and it clinically transforms them into threatening, terrifyingly foreign voids. It's all designed to strip away that salve of illusion. And let's be clear, this is not just some abstract mental exercise. It's a visceral, forced descent into the labyrinth of your own body, your own history. The whole point is to dig up the buried secrets, the truths you've repressed, and force a confrontation with the original catastrophe, that foundational trauma that your personality was built to protect you from.
After this complete and total dismantling, the patient arrives at the climax of the trial. Deep down in the subterranean temple of the soul, a fundamental choice has to be made.
The first option on the table is the logic of zero. You can basically think of this as Freud's death drive, Thanatos, but made real. It's that deep, unconscious pull to just end the struggle, to finally resolve the fever of consciousness by returning the soul to the quiet, inanimate peace of simply not being. So, the choice is laid bare. The grand silence or the eternal storm. The logic of zero offers the crimson gift of absolute erasure, the peace of the abyss, a final cure through non-existence. The logic of one, on the other hand, offers the fire of eternal becoming, the volatile, difficult, lightning-like existence of self-ownership and the will to create your own meaning. So what happens if the patient rejects that peace, rejects the abyss, and chooses the storm? Well, that takes us to our final stage, the sovereign metamorphoses. This transformation happens in 3 distinct stages. First, the spirit becomes like a camel, learning to endure the crushing weight of unvarnished reality with no illusions left. Then it becomes the lion, a powerful force that violently rejects all the hollow inherited values it's been carrying. And finally, from that cleared ground, it becomes the child, a new beginning, a true creator who can generate authentic meaning right out of the void itself. The outcome of all this is a total shift in how you exist. The patient is no longer a beggar, pleading with the heavens for scraps of meaning. No, they have become a sovereign master of their own being, an integrated consciousness that defines the terms of its own existence.
But this sovereignty comes with a final, profound paradox. The promise of self-mastery is absolutely inseparable from the eternal storm of struggle and suffering. In fact, that constant battle is the gift. That's the crimson gift.
And so, our clinical trial ends with a question. But this one isn't for the patient on the table. It's for you. After the unmaking, when you're standing in the ruins, which would you choose? The peace of the abyss or the fire of becoming?